the threats change so rapidly. I mean, the hacker groups are professional organizations, and so you need a team. You can't just have local Joe, screwdriver guy doing it as a part-time gig, because we are a target.
Welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast. I'm Blake Oliver.
And I'm David Leary.
And I'm Roman Kepczyk, Director of Firm Technology Strategy for Right Networks.
Wow, Roman, thanks for joining us. We're here at Accountex USA in Boston. We're interviewing lots of important people, you being one of them.
Well, I'd like to see one of those too.
You have the ability to speak about a billion things. Yep. So one of the things I was thinking is why don't we just do a security one? Like views of security. We talk about security all the time on the podcast. Ransomware is rampant right now. Again, we talked about ransomware.
Malware. And with desktop hosting providers that are getting the InSync outage attack, a CCH getting shut down temporarily by, what was that? That was malware.
Yep.
Not ransomware in that case, but
it's Dentist Safe. So there's something called Dentist Safe, and they back up dental medical records. They got ransomware last week.
Many local governments, cities have been taken down and had to completely rebuild their systems, right?
Well, I think there was 22 cities in Texas that were all using kind of the same infrastructure, and they all got hit with the same ransomware that's out there. Matter of fact, I was at a conference last month, and Gene Marks was speaking, and one of his predictions was that 4 out of 5 firms and the companies in the next year will be hacked by something and have ransomware that they have to work around. So that's why it's so important to make sure you have a process of good backups, that you're testing them, so that in the event your firm does get hit, the solution honestly is, wipe out the servers, restore the data, and get the people back up and running.
So what does that actually look like? Because it sounds like in a lot of these cases, there weren't backups being made, or the backups got themselves infected.
Exactly.
So how do you ensure that you actually have backups that are up to date and that you can actually restore in the case of one of these attacks?
Well, what happens is you got to be doing constant shadow copies. And so Microsoft by default has the capability on the servers where every hour, any file that's been changed, those components that have changed can be backed up to the main server. So we do what's called disk to disk to offsite. So inside, if a firm is doing their own stuff, they'll have a set of, like I said, their standard servers, then they'll have their backup servers, and they'll be shadowing copying nonstop to that secondary set. And then during the evening or when there's a slow time, it'll back up all those images up there so you can restore to a different version. Now, what's unfortunate is you've got to be able to catch the malware as it's spreading out there. And so there's tools, intrusion detection prevention software that kind of identify it. And so if you catch it quick enough, then you can restore to that last version. I've had scenarios that were, firms were not checking their backups. And basically, when they tried to restore, they found months back, there was malware and stuff in there. Yep. And so they had to keep going back and losing data the whole time. So that's one of the benefits of the cloud. That software is a higher level quality software that's testing more frequently, and it knows when something weird's going on, and all of a sudden starts encrypting files randomly that can shut it down much quicker.
There's this over-assumption it's in the cloud. I don't have to take any personal responsibility and make more backups yourself. But yes, you need to pull your own stuff down occasionally, put it on a external hard drive, throw it in your safe. It's not that the cloud's not reliable. It's just if there is an outage, if there's a ransomware attack, you can keep working if you have your own stuff. But people, I think, there's this assumption it's in the cloud. And it's really confusing with the hosting type situations, right?
Because, that's why you need to ask your hosting provider, what is the scenario? And so having them explain to you examples of where clients have clicked on ransomware and how did they recover from those things. Because we have scenarios every week where one of our clients' employees clicks on a phishing email, and all of a sudden you realize their credentials have been compromised. But we have a procedure that basically knows immediately how to shut it down, pretty much contain where the damage is, and then get them back up and running. So it brings up what's important is the phishing training of employees. That is what's got to happen. And it seems like the two roots to all the attacks of whether it's ransomware or malware is either compromised credentials, that's someone gets your password, or they click on that phishing email. And so we do a bunch of surveys through a group called the CPA Firm Management Association. That's the larger firms, between 10 and 200 members. And the top 3 products they use is PhishMe, KnowBe4, and Wombat Security. And these are services that will send phishing emails to your people and then lets you know who clicks on them, and then it does constant training, like just-in-time training.
Right.
With Right Networks, we always use know before. So we're required every 6 months to go through. Actually, it's like almost every 3 months now, where they send us emails, and then we have to do a training module.
So that one, like
That's
your
really
FedEx
smart.
package is ready. Click here for the status. I'm like, what did I order? I don't click those links. Okay.
Well, and we're getting close to the holiday season, so the Better Business Bureau puts out their list of the dirty dozen phishing threats, and so we tell all of our firms, look through that list, because exactly what you said, FedEx, Target gift card, hey, we noticed your Costco membership's time for renewal, and they get somebody. It's like someone clicking on a Bank of America link. If they send you a Bank of America, a Wells Fargo, a Chase.
Click here to log in, takes you to a fake login page that looks exactly like the regular one, except for the URL.
Yep, and they're doing it on your smartphones now too. That's what's crazy is and with the smartphone you can't see the full URL, whereas on your computer you can hover over it and see it all the way, but not on the smartphone.
Wow.
This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Right Networks. In a perfect world, everyone would have 100% of their clients on a cloud-based accounting system using cloud-based apps. But the world isn't perfect, and clients have a wide range of needs. And for some, this means using desktop-based software. That's where Right Networks comes in. Right Networks is your 100% accounting-focused desktop in the cloud that also includes an ecosystem of over 250 connected apps. As you and your clients take the journey to the cloud, Right Networks will be at your side, innovating the best ways to leverage the true cloud future by investing heavily in cloud apps like Transaction Pro and AutoFi. They've created an always-on environment that supports 24/7 data transfer. Right Networks also offers no scheduled downtime for maintenance or application updates and meets the industry's highest security standards. To join the more than 50,000 firms that use Right Networks daily with their clients, head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/RNCloud. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/RNCLOUD. And be sure to visit the Right Networks booth in San Jose at QuickBooks Connect 2019.
So you said there are two, I think you said there's two main vectors of attacks. So the phishing emails are one. What was the other one?
Well, it's the compromised credentials.
Compromised credentials.
And what happens is the hacker groups have these bots and utilities that, for instance, if I hack into your Marriott account, and I will use that login and password, I know automatically to go to your IHG account, to your Hilton account, your Kimpton account. It goes to all those and tests. Well, they do the same thing in the CPA firm. There's groups that attack accounting firms. And once I know that, let's say I've compromised your paperless safe send credential, I'll try that on your Thomson Reuters, your CCH. They have these tools that just go through automatically.
Because you're not using a random password for every single site. You're going to using the same password, which, I mean, I probably did for the first 8 years of me being on the internet. Same password everywhere. Yeah,
we all did, and that's because it was easy to remember. And so for small practitioners, we do recommend password wallets, and that would be like LastPass, RoboForm, Keeper, all those type of products. But as soon as you get to 4 or 5 members, you want it managed. And honestly, the tools like Duo and Okta, what happens is it creates, once you log into any website, it sends a code to your phone or your smartwatch that you can click on, and then it allows access. And so
these are the single sign-on tools that you mentioned.
Well, and that multi-factor authentication.
Multi-factor authentication.
And sometimes it's called dual-factor authentication. But like what happens is, let's say I'm an UltraTax user and someone tries to log into my account, because on the dark web you can there's lists of UltraTax users, passwords, and logins. If you try to log into my account at 3 o'clock in the morning, it sends a code to my phone.
Right.
While I sleep through it. Well, the next morning when I wake up, I see that someone tried to log in. They couldn't get in because I didn't authorize it. But then I know my credentials have been compromised and have to change them immediately.
Yeah, and I think like there's layers, right? I think like your Google account, your Apple account, your Verizon, your T-Mobile, like there's certain accounts that you have to have super extra security levels, right?
Yep.
And you better have two-factor on, because if they get your Google one, then it's just a domino effect. They can probably get everything because they can just start resetting other passwords you have on other sites. And one thing I have on like my most secure accounts, I use a YubiKey, like a physical hardware device now as well, because I hear these horror stories of cell phone swapping.
Oh, yeah, the SIM attacks.
Simming, yeah.
Right?
Attack, yeah.
So they
Well,
can steal
YubiKey
your
got
phone
hacked
number.
too. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
What happened is they have a series of
Breaking news.
No, they had 6 different formats, I guess. And one of the formats, someone had figured out the algorithm and posted it, because within Right Networks, we have like a security profile. It's like a Yammer talk. And basically, I was doing a speech on YubiKey, and someone popped that up there and said, hey, all these have to be replaced. And they replaced like 1 million of them. Okay. They fixed it immediately.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things you always have to be very cognizant of those tools. But I agree with you. The YubiKey is better multi-factor authentication with credentials than not having it. And in a lot of our markets, there are local consultants working with small firms that prefer those products. And you know what? If it's installed by a qualified installer, it's as secure you're going to get.
And for our listeners who have never seen a YubiKey, it looks like a very small USB drive.
Yeah,
right?
with the skin covered up, pulled off of it.
Yeah, so you plug that in, and then you press a button on it, and it generates this random
It
code.
authenticates.
Yeah. So the workflow and GoDaddy has done it very, very well, and which is good, because if you get to GoDaddy, now you get my email, and now everything's a domino, right?
Yeah.
But GoDaddy, so you set the key you associate with GoDaddy, and so you log into GoDaddy, but instead of getting a text message like everybody else gets, I have to touch my key.
Yep.
And now Firefox has good support for it. Actually, Windows 10 now has good support for the hardware-based keys, but I don't set it up on every single website I go to, but just the important ones.
Absolutely.
The super ones that I like. I want to make sure nobody can log in unless they have the physical device.
Yep. If it's anything that's financial, if it's got personally identifiable information, that stuff is what you block, in there. And I've gotten to the point actually where I do certain things on my iPad, like when I'm doing browsing and just looking, I just don't do that on my computer or my smartphone.
Right.
Right,
because
if that gets messed up, no one cares. I don't care. So. But I do have to use multiple devices. I have a routine. I do my banking online. In the morning, I check all my accounts, because I travel about 120 days a year. And so I'm swiping both the company card and my personal card everywhere. And so every morning I check to see what is impending. And you catch things before they get passed through. Yeah.
So pulling things back to firm security,
Yeah.
I just want to review what we've talked about so far. So we've talked about multi-factor authentication,
Absolutely.
whether that's a YubiKey, a physical key, or a authenticator app on your phone.
Yep.
I don't know if we talked about that, but that's another option.
Yep.
And do you have any recommendations, for a firm, like somebody's listening and they want to get started with it? What do you like?
Well, one thing that we always do is if it's a firm that does their own certain network infrastructure and support,
It's a small
ask
firm.
how much training their internal IT person has. And we find that they don't.
Yeah. Well, they often don't have an IT person.
Yeah,
Right?
but even if they have an external person, ask
Right.
how much security training they've got. And it's better to have a third party look at what they're doing and check their work. And so that's one of the things, within Right Networks, we have 2 or 3 different security providers who are constantly checking us and doing, different
external
testing.
security providers.
External, correct. We have a strong team doing this, but you have to have other people checking, because the threats change so rapidly. The hacker groups are professional organizations, and once they learn how to hack one tool, they use that same tool on all similar situations, and they've recorded information, they've captured everyone's servers, and so they know who to attack.
Yeah.
So you need to constantly be vigilant, and so you need a team, and you can't just have local Joe, screwdriver guy doing it as a part-time gig, because we are a target.
So one of the problems with some hosting companies is that one firm will get infected and then it spreads.
Yep.
How do you at Right Networks prevent that from happening, a spread within, from firm to firm, from server to server?
I can tell you that we are a SOC 2 certified data center and all that, and we follow all the protocols for that. We can't tell you what we're doing internally. Our clients know. We have a document that tells them what it explains what that is, but
Don't worry, no hackers are listening to the Cloud Accounting podcast. You can disclose
never
these
know.
things.
it's a very small world we live in. We all know each other. Everyone knows everyone, and so
but you have ways of putting up walls.
they're already housed. They're housed separately. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
And I think what happens is with the 3 hacks that happened previously, we all learn from them. It's not like CCH and CTRM were in a vacuum and all that. When it happened, the information was spoken in the background and all that, and we're all in the same game.
What recommendations do you have for accountants and accounting firms when dealing with their clients' passwords and records? Because you're seeing this a lot, with banks. right? Only a couple banks have an ability to, if I want to add Blake as my accountant, I can invite him to my account and he has his own username and password, but he has access to my bank account. And so lots of bookkeepers and accountants have their clients' usernames, passwords. Some of them are setting up
things,
phone numbers to route through second form authentications. Like what do you recommend firms do? Like, should you recommend don't do it at all because you're liable? Like,
yeah, there's no good answer to that.
Okay.
Honestly, we find that most commonly what we see is honestly like a spreadsheet that's encrypted, and we know that. There's hacker tools for every spreadsheet that's out there that's stored under a weird name on their machine, and we recommend against that. And so if the client can use a product like a password vault where there's a one unique code and then that is utilized, that's probably as good as you're going to get. But, as a CPA, I've got to say you shouldn't, share your passwords out there. But we know firms are doing it because they're getting access to those business accounts.
And then even I was thinking, which I always, even on a personal level with my wife or my kids, like, you can email me the username, but then text me the password, or
separate them. Yep.
You can never let them travel together in the same conversation.
No, because there's always one person listening to it. We concern that sometimes even with the email, good hacker tools now are actually looking out there for those weird, like if something that's not a word in the English language, it's really long or a passphrase, they can pull those out of the texts now. It's scary.
Roman, the thing I learned today I learned that these companies exist that will test your employees with fake phishing attacks. What was the name of the service that you like?
Well, there's three that always show up in the surveys. Yeah. Number one is called Know Before, KNOWBE, and then the number 4. Then there's PhishMe, PHISH, me.com. And then Wombat was the third that showed up on our survey.
And is this something that I as a CPA firm could sign up for?
Absolutely, yeah. It's an annual fee per user. I don't know the prices. I know it came with at Right Networks that we sign up for, and all 300 of us have to go through it. So.
Yeah, I think that's what a great way to educate your team, because if they fall for it, they know that they won't do it again, or hopefully they won't do it again.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the training that follows up, it knows the type of thing you fell for. So they have very specific training for that type of thing. So when you see someone, even if they hover over the name, there's if it says bank.com and has a slash afterwards with a word, that's okay. But if it's another dot and another word, going down, they have training on how to look at that specifically.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks so much for all this insight on security, Roman. If people want to follow you online, get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Probably on the Right Networks blog. I write for CPA Practice Advisor, Thomson Reuters. I write 8 columns for the AICPA, and we retain the right to publish those all on rightnetworks.com/blog.
Right. And as always, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Blake T. Oliver.
And I'm on Twitter at David Leary.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ron.